Hey y'all, hey, welcome to session 2 of KickBack Bible Study. And I had an introduction that I recorded for the first session, but it got lost. So let me fill y'all in on what we're doing here. My goal in creating this channel is to create a space free of any type of religion or judgment for us to be able to really explore the Word of God and to promote self-study when it comes to the Word. Really dive into it and not just read, a couple of verses that you may be assigned to, from your pastor. It's really important that we all get the Word and we get the Word for ourselves and know how to independently study. So this is a space to help do that. And in our first session, I went over basically study habits and things that I do that have made it much easier to digest the Bible, because it's a huge book. So I understand it can be really hard to keep track of all that information and really absorb it. So what we did, like in the first session, I went over and explained my highlighter method, how I have a bunch of different color highlighters, and I have a ledger in the front of my Bible as to how I've chosen to categorize those things. So you got life tips, promises of God, commandments, and parables of Jesus. So however you see fit to organize that information, then that's how you organize it for yourself. And we talked about stopping, looking up every little word. If you don't know what it means, don't skip past it. Look that up. It's really, really important for your understanding. So we're going to pick back up. We left off at Noah's death. The flood has occurred. The boat done got back down. The water has assuaged. And we're going to see what's going to be going on next. Now, I strongly encourage you, if you did not listen in on the first session, take the time out to either read through Genesis 1 through 9 before picking up on chapter 10, or go back and listen to that video. You want to make sure that you're getting a complete word. It's not my goal to add to or take away from anything. So we're going to pick back up on our reading. And we're going to say, we're starting at chapter 10. We'll go, I guess, to like chapter 20. And let's see. We'll see how that works. Now, I'm not going to be doing as much stopping and looking stuff up and, what have you. Feel free to do that at whatever time. Pause and look up and come back and push play. So now that you see how I study, like whatever you see fit to do, then you can do that. So let's get started. We're going to start on chapter 10. Okay. Genesis chapter 10. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshka, and Tyrus. Yeah, maybe. But it's a I. Taras. And the son of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Repath, and Tagarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kemet, and Dodium. By these were the isles of the Gentiles, divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families and their nations. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizarma, and Put, and Canaan, and the sons of Cush, Sabah, Hevlah, and Sabath, and Ramah, and Sabatka, and the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. Now y'all know I got a real Hebrew name, but this is way more Hebrew than my name. So, and Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Now, I have this highlighted, and I want to make note to this. As I said in the first video, anytime you see an adjective used to describe someone in the Bible, that would be a good time to take pause and really look up how that would have been used during that time. So it's saying that he was mighty. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Our modern day interpretation of what a mighty hunter may be, you'd be like, oh, So he had lions on deck, just lion skin everywhere. It's like that's where the mind, well, my mind would kind of go. But when you're doing your studies in the Bible, it's not just important that you know the words that you're reading, but that you know how the words were used and what thought was meant to be conveyed. So when he says he was a mighty hunter before the Lord, you could just go to a quick Google search and say, what does it mean to be a mighty hunter before the Lord, or mighty hunter in Hebrew, or because all of this is based off of Hebrew text. So how we use words might be a little bit different. So I just want to say, take pause, look stuff like that up. And I may mention that because I have it highlighted, because I was like, what do you mean mighty in the earth? Like, what does that mean? So look up stuff like that. Okay. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erich, and Akkad, and Chanel, and in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Asher, and built Nineveh, and the city Ronboth and Calah. And Rezin between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city. And Mizrah, this is talking about a person now. Mizrah is a person. Mezarim begat Ludium, and Aninim, and Lahibim, and Nataphim, and Percharshus, and Kalashnimusm, out of whom came Philistim, and Catarium. And Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgasite, and the Havite, and the Architite, and the Snanite, and the Avidite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamorite. And afterwards were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the broader of the Canaanites was from Sidon, and thou comest to Gerar unto Gaza, and thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboam, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham after their families, after their tongues, in their countries and in their nations. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Axphrod, and Lud, and Aram. And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hal, and Gether, and Mash. And Ephraxat began Salah, and Salah begat, and Oxfla begat Salah, and Salah begat Eber. And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for his days for in his days the earth divided. And his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan begat Alamdad, and Sephlah, and Hazamasarah, and Jerah, and Hadamram, and Uzal, and Dekolamda. And okay, y'all don't laugh at me. I do not know how to say these names, but it's not about pronouncing it. You read along and you can see what I'm saying. And now I know how white people feel every time they look at my name. And Obo, and Abelmi, and Sheba, and Oper, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Mesha, as thou goest unto Sephir, a mount of the east. These are the sons of Shem after their families, and their tongues, and their lands after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations in their nations. And by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So for that chapter, now you're going to see the Bible is very detailed. And if you are at that place where you want to go and keep track of all of this genealogy and all this stuff, then you most certainly can. I have no doubt that if you delve and ask God to reveal to you how all this stuff makes sense, that he'll make it make sense. But it's not something that I really got myself lost into. because my goal was just to get through reading the Bible and then to go back and digest everything. So our goal here is we're reading the Bible from front to back. So make note of things like this, but don't allow it to get you too distracted, because it's a lot of information out there where you could go through tracking this genealogy and figure out what people was who and where, and all that stuff is out there. It's already been done. And at the end of the day, ain't nobody alive really able to attest to seeing any of these people. So that information, it's one of those things where it's just a circular thing where you may never come to a resolve. So most certainly, if that stuff interests you, then look into it, but don't get lost in trying to figure this stuff out. The goal is to get through the Bible, and then we'll figure out what we need to figure out once we've absorbed all the information. So we're on chapter 11 now. It explained the generations and the kids who had kids, and how these people got spread out, and how they created these different nations, and where they settled at, and how they lived. So now we're on chapter 11. Genesis chapter 11. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men build. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they all have one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Now, this is another thing, if you want to make pause to, you see how it says us? It says, Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. That's again this us thing that keeps coming up. And it's like, where's us, God? Who with you? We're still in Genesis, so you take in things like that. Pay attention. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build a city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old, and begat Axpharad in 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begot Axpharad 500 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Axpharad lived 5 and 30 years, and begat Salah. And Axpharad lived after he begot Salah 403 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Shelah lived 30 years, and begat Eber. And Shelah lived after he begot Eber 403 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 430 years, and begat Peleg. And Eber lived after he begot Peleg 430 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years, and begot Reu. And Peleg lived after he begot Reu 209 years, and begot sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years, and begot Sergu. And Reu lived after he begot Sergu 207 years, and begot sons and daughters. And Sheru lived 30 years, and begot Noar. And Sheru lived after he begot Noar 200 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And Noar lived 29 years, and begot Terah. And Noar lived after he begot Terah 119 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years, and begot Abram, Norah, and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Norah, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Norah took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Noah's wife Melka. and the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Ishka. But Sarai was barren; she had no child. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarah his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan, and they came unto Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Okay. Now the Lord said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country. This is chapter 12. Now the Lord said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed. And pause. That's something that I would highlight as prophetic, because anytime God says something, that word has to pass. So we would take that. I will make thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse thee that curse thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So that you can highlight that as prophecy or promise. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to God speaking. His word is more than prophecy. It is a promise. So sometimes you have dual categories like that. All right. So Abram, he's still Abram right now. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. Oh wait, we read that. Oh wait, no. So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go to the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Shechem, unto the plain of Moreh. And the Canaanite was then in the land. And the Lord appeared unto Abram and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land, and there build an altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him. And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east. And there he built an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And sojourn is spelled Sojourn. If you don't know what that means, look it up, because it's going to be something that you come across like quite often. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that they may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. So just planing it down, he was like, look, girl, you cute, and if we go in here and these Egyptians know that you my dame, they gonna want to kill me to get me out the way, because they trying to cuff you. But if you say you my brother, you know what I'm saying, like just a bro oh girl, sis, I love you. So that's what he's saying. He like, hey, we got to go somewhere. We got to put on this show. So, you know, this is how I want y'all to be able to interpret the Bible. It's great. It's just the way that they write it. If you understand it, it's different. It's easy. It's great. So, and it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entered Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen, and he asses and manservants and maidservants and she asses and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plague because of Sarah, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why did thou say she is my sister? So I might have taken her to me to wife. Now therefore, behold, thy wife, take her and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. So basically, this was the reason I love these type of short stories. Is almost like, what was the point of this? Like, why are you telling me? Like, ain't nothing happened. He came and he left. But what really stands out to me with this passage is how it says that the Lord brought many plagues because of Abram's wife. So it was a time where it wasn't a delayed judgment. There was a time when you do something wrong and everything just starts going bad in your life, and it wasn't a question of why. The Pharaoh knew, like, hey, I'm in here straight adultering, and you ain't even tell me this was your wife for real. You could have just told me that. But Abram knew that they would have killed him if he wanted to take her as a wife. So opposed to putting his life at risk, he let that thing ride, and God brought judgment. And so I love little small things like that, because it's really something that helps you identify how the world was at one point when God was, I don't want to say more present, I want to say before he turned his face from the people. You know, when he lived and walked with us in the Garden of Eden, it's a different time. So this just highlights how the judgment of God was there, ever present and ever known. So now we're moving on to chapter 13. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle and silver and in gold. And he went on his journey from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and your herdmen, for we are brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. If thou depart to the right, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and behold, all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, Lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give thee, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. And Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. And chapter 14. And it came to pass in the days of Ephel, king of Shinar, Archar, king of Elsar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these were war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shabir, king of Zeboim, and the king of Belel, which is Zar. And these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the salt sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims and Ashtakar and the Zunims in Ham, and the Enims and Shavi Kartarium, and the Horites in their Mount Seir unto Elfrin, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to Enopshaphat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amaleks, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazinotamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Belal is same as Zor, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim, with Charlo the king of Elam, and with Tidal king of nations, and Aphil king of Samar, and Arikok king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. So Lot just got robbed. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Merimul, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and the brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born his own house, 318, and pursued them. So he coming to save nephew. Yes, I need me an uncle like that. Let me call. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Habah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him in the valley of Shavon, which is the king's dale. And Machishlag, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thine hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latch, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldst say, I have made Abram rich. Yes, baby. I like it. So, okay. At this particular moment, basically the king is like, wait, hold on, let me finish this chapter, because it's only one verse. Save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshkel, Merom, let them take their portion. So this is why Abram is Abram, and he's so bomb. So he came before the king. It was a battle going on, and I guess in the midst of trying to get Lot back, and the king got all this other stuff going on. He done walked into some drama, because the same people that done robbed Lot is the same people. The reason that Lot got robbed is because he was living right outside of this other kingdom where this dude got all this drama going on. So the dude was like, man, thank you. You did me a whole solid. I was off the war, and I know you only came here to save your nephew or whatever, but you end up handling some stuff for me. So boom, here, let me give you this. Let me grease your palm. And Abram was like, no, bro, you good, because I ain't come to do nothing for you. And I don't want you to be like, oh, you done did something for me, or that the glory of this. It says, and to say specifically how he said it, he says that, and Abram said unto the king, I have lifted up mine hand unto thee, unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latch, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou should say, I have made Abram rich. So he was like, don't even worry about it. Abram was like, I know I handled this whole situation or whatever, but what I do for God. So I'm not looking for no reward from you, because I don't want you to say you the reason that I'm prospering, or you helped me out because I helped you out, and now you the reason why I'm all good. So that's a life lesson. I'm gonna highlight that. I didn't have this highlighted before, but I'm gonna highlight it. Let me pull, because this is a perfect example of when we go through life, don't always look for that person. Don't always look for somebody to reward you. I'm not, I'm not trying to put my interpretation on anybody. I'm just trying to make it as plain as it's been made for me. And what that says to me is when Abram was going to go get Lot anyway. And when God has put you in a position to do something that you were going to do anyway, we run into situations in life where we may end up helping people on accident just by process of what it is that we're doing. So rather than having an attitude of saying, oh, the king gonna give me some money, I'm gonna take it. Let's take a more spiritual approach and say, if I did this, it's because the grace of God allowed me to be in this position to rectify this issue at this point. So I don't want to diminish the works of God by putting a price on it as if you could have paid for me to help you. So just take it, this is an exciting point where I'm like, Abram, you a boss, baby. I don't need nothing from the king. He like, I got cattle, I got horses and she asses and he asses and maid servants and man servants. So that's what that is. I'm sorry, I get excited when I get to talking about the word. So chapter 15. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Lord God, with what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is the Elzer of Damascus? And Abram said, behold to me that thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. This is so sweet. Okay. So basically, okay, we'll go through the chapter before I get too excited. Okay. And he brought him forth abroad and said, look now towards the heaven and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldeans, and give this land to inherit. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another, but the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell unto Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass that, and that's prophet, that's a prophetic word. Remember what I said, anytime God say something, it's prophetic. And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river of Euphrates. The Kenites and the Kizitites and the Kadmonites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Rapims and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites. So in chapter 15, Abram having the whole conversation with God, and he was like, man, God, you done blessed me with all this stuff, and I ain't even got no children that's mine. Like, my only heir is like a servant for real. And he cool or whatever, but he don't look like me. He don't look like me. And so God was like, I know you ain't got no children, but look up at the stars. All of these, you gonna shoot your shot and they all gonna hit. Baby gonna be barefoot and pregnant for a long time. So he telling him to believe that. And one part about here that really, really sticks out for me, it says, when he told him, he said, if thou art able to number, I'm bringing it back to verse 5, and if thou art able to number them, and he said unto them, so shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. So even though he old and it looked like he ain't gonna have no children or whatever, it's all about him having that faith. He believed that. And God said to him, like, hey, I brought you up from this whole situation with these Chaldeans. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to fight your way through that. How hard can having a baby be? I got you. So it's a really good insight to the nature of Abram. He believed even in the face of whatever. So 16. Sorry. All right. 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid, and may it be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid in thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. But Abram said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in thy hand, to do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarah dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way of Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, whence comest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren. And she called the name of the Lord that spoke unto her, Thou God seest me. For she said, Have have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Wherefore the well was called, therefore the well was called Beralai. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare Ishmael. And Abram was 60 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abram. Now, 80, look that up. I ain't gonna tell you everything, but a score is a measurement of time that was used at that point. So if you want to know what 80 is, look it up so you can have a reference. But he old. So, chapter 16, what just happened? So Sarah, now, you know, back in the day, this is how this used to go. Sarah was like, I know we get old and you ain't got no babies and my ovaries ain't working. And I don't want you to be unhappy. So I got this maid, you know what I'm saying? She my maid or whatever. So go and wife that up so we can have a baby. And then she thought about it after the fact. And she was like walking around like seeing this girl pregnant and wishing she was pregnant and mad because now her husband got a whole baby mama. You know, like she mad. She vexed over it. So she started treating Hagar, the maid, you know, all nasty kind of ways. So Hagar like, Lord, I'm a slave. I ain't even asked. I didn't try to give this. He took it. Kinda. Not took it, but you know, kinda. So that's where we at with that. And so she like, she talking to God. God talking to her, and she was like, listen, you gonna have this son. Your son name gonna be Ishmael. Chill out, because the Lord have heard thy affliction. So that's where we at. Now 17. And when Abram was 90 years, see that a score. 90 don't sound like 4, so I don't want you to read the Bible and then be like 80 and think he's like 40 years old. It's like, no, look this stuff up so you have an understanding. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee. And I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee, and I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generation, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee a land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generation, that he is born in the house or brought with money of any stranger which is not of thy seed. So the slaves got to do it too. And that is born in thy house, and that he is brought with thy money, must need be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the circumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. And God said unto Abram, As for Sarai, thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abram fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abram said unto God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And for Ishmael I have heard thee. Behold, I have I have blessed him and will make him fruitful and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. And he left off, taking with him, and God went up from Abram, and Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were brought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as God had said unto him. And Abraham was 90 years old and 9 when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin in the selfsame day, when Abraham in the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house born in the house and bought with money of the strangers were circumcised with him. So God's like, yeah, y'all finna have this old baby. Watch and see what I do. Because now at this time, people aren't living 700, 800, 900 years like they were back in the day. Like the times have changed. And when we went through the genealogy, you could see how it was like so-and-so begot so-and-so. And it started going from like at 100 to like teen pregnancy 65. You know, like that's what the trend was. So you can see as to why this would be like an outlandish idea to him. So chapter 18. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself toward the ground. And he said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on, for therefore are ye come to your servant. And they did. So do as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened unto the tent, unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf, tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hastened to dress it. So basically, they're getting ready for a cookout. Now, and he took butter and milk, and the calves which he had dressed, and set it before them, and he stood by them under a tree, and they did eat. And they said unto him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life, and lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the door which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Therefore, so basically that thing dry. Therefore Sarah laughed with herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? And the Lord said unto Abram, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of surety bear a child, which am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed, I will return unto thee according to the time of thy life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. Now let's finish reading it. And the men rose up from thence, and looked toward Sodom, and Abram went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after them, that they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now, and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thee, and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near, saying, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city wilt thou also destroy, and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein. That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, that the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sake. And Abram answered and said, behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spake unto him yet again, and said, peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not deny it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall be 30 be found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30. And he said, behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure shall there be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way, and as soon as he had left communing with Abram, and Abram returned unto his place. Okay, so now chapter 18, that was a bomb chapter. So basically these 3 people, they're on a mission for God. They definitely, evidently God's homeboys. I don't know if they angels or what, but just from reading the text, they said it was 3 men. So whatever these 3 men is that's telling Sarah she gonna have a baby and that pocket gonna get hot again, that's what they doing. So after a couple of points I want to make is that in that moment, and this really speaks to the character of God, when Sarah overheard them talking about how she was gonna have a baby, and she laughed, and when she realized that these men were spiritual and they were looking at her and they was like, oh, she's for real, and she was like, oh no, I didn't laugh, and dude was like, yeah, you did. It's the character. It to me, it gives insight to the character of God, because God ain't no stick in the mud. And that's not to say that you have to be considered less faithful or anything like that to find humor in things. It was like, yeah, anybody would look at this and say that's funny. But that's the type of thing God likes to do. God likes to let you laugh at the impossible to show you just how much power he has. So I think that's a really good point to highlight about how she laughed and then said that she didn't laugh. It speaks to the nature of people. It identifies that she was fearful, and God recognizes that. She didn't say that she didn't laugh because she was intending to lie. It's like she just didn't want to feel that she disrespected God. But it's a measure there that we don't want to persecute people and tell people, oh, you shouldn't say this or do this or feel this way about God or that way about God. Everybody's relationship with God is their own. If God tells a 90-something-year-old lady that she want to have a baby and she think it's funny, then that's for her to think, So we want to get away from thinking that God is such a stick in the mud. He know some of the stuff he be asking be looking crazy, and it's not about whether it looks crazy or not. It's about whether or not you have enough faith to stick to that. And then now moving on past that, we have another interaction here with God and Abraham, whereas sometimes we look or can interpret it as God being this person that's just like, follow my commandments, and that is what it is, and this, that, and the third. But this conversation that he has with Abram really starts to give insight to his character. He allowed Abram to say, hey, you can talk to me. What's on your mind? And Abram was very respectful and said, like, who am I to talk to you, God? Who am I to talk to you? But this is a part of why the covenant was made with Abram, because his heart was clean. And he did not come to God with ill intentions. These people in Sodom and Gomorrah ain't got nothing to do with him. That's on the other side of the plain or the river or wherever. It's on the other side of somewhere. So even though these things don't, I would say, directly, it's not like God saying, I'm finna come destroy your house. He's saying, but what if it's somebody amongst those people, the compassion for the human race that he has. This is compassion for what is probably essentially strangers. You know, he might know somebody over there, but this ain't his house. So God allowed that interaction, and it's because that interaction was reflective of God's character. God is full of love. So the things that we come to him about, when they're with that same love, God is enduring and open to, hey, what's on your heart, baby? Come lay it on me. And he obliged him. He said, you worried about 50 people in this whole city of freaking scammers and murderers and all of that. They gonna scam yours. But you know what? I get you. If it's 5 of them in there that ain't doing nothing crazy, I got you. Well, he said 10. He said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. So that's just a really good example that starts to show the character of God to us. So let's get on. We got 2 more chapters. So 19. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even. Oh, see, angels. They was we don't know that, but they left from Abraham's house and said they was going to go handle some business in Sodom and Gomorrah, and now all of a sudden we in Sodom and there's some angels. So, and there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground, and he said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned unto him and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did break unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both young and old, all the people from every corner. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them unto you, and do ye with them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with them than with them. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. So these people that came in the house, and now these people in Sodom, they trying to break in. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the houses with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. See, that's why I need me an angel. I need me a personal angel. Somebody try to break in my house, God, just let them go blind. So here we go. And the men said unto Lot, Has thou here any besides son-in-law, and thou sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city? Bring them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot, okay, I gotta cut off for a second, but I'm back. All right, so, and Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-laws. So they thought he was joking. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed by the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters. The Lord being merciful unto him, they brought him forth, and sent him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold, now the city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape therein. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live? And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for which thou hast spoken. Hasten thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be cometh thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities that which grew upon the ground. So basically Lot was like, Lord, I ain't gonna make it to the mountains. And God was like, look, get out of there, because I'm finna burn this down. I'm burning it down. Now go on somewhere. So Lot got out, and then brimstone and fire came. And so and he overthrew those cities and in the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord. And he took toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelled. And Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. Okay, so he went wherever he went. He ain't go where God told him to go first. He went somewhere else, I guess. I don't know. No, he went somewhere else first. Let's read that back. And he lingered, and the men hold him in the sun, and brought forth him out of the city. And it came to pass, when they brought him forth, he said, Escape thy life, and behold, neither stay in the plain to escape to the mountain. Thus, and Lot, oh, not so, my Lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and I magnified and taken. Behold, now this city is near to me, and flee unto thee, and escape, that my soul shall live. Okay, so he went to some place that was closer first. So I guess in the heat of the moment, he was like, I just got to go, Lord, and I ain't going to make it there. But eventually, okay, yeah, so he said he went up out of Zoar. So after he left from the city where it was close, when all this stuff was going down, now he's going to the mountains wherever God had instructed him to go. So he dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. And he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass in the morrow, that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine, and that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Benami. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. So yeah, it's some real weird, it was the times back then, carrying seed, having babies, but they got their daddy drunk. And this is an insight into the nature of people. They wanted kids to keep the seed going on, so they was like, this the only one available. So we're going to go to chapter 20 and see what happens from here. And Abram journeyed from And Abram journeyed from thence toward the south country, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shamar, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, she is my sister. They doing this again, because obviously Sarah was fine. Like, baby was like a whole snack, because he got to go tell everybody his sister. Like, everybody trying to kill for that. So we'll see. And Abram said of Sarah his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, behold, thou art but a dead man for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her, and said, Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto me, she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hands have I done this. And God said unto him in a dream, yea, I know that thou didst this in integrity of the heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I thee not to touch her. Now therefore, see, this how God works. God gonna keep you at that situation. He don't want you to sin against him. So God is not gonna lead you into sin. Whatever it was that needed to be set up at that time was being set up. But God intervened and came to him in a dream and was like, hey, you know that thing spoken for. And I don't like when y'all dibble dabble and switcheroo. So he's telling him, he's like, God, how you gonna blame me for that? And God like, listen, man, I ain't blaming you for nothing. I know she fine, but that's why I gave you diarrhea that night, so that you wouldn't even be tempted, be trying to jump on this dame like that. Because I knew that you wouldn't do this if you knew what you was doing. So that's why you got diarrhea. I kept you from sinning and had you messed up that night. That's the way God works. And it's such a beautiful thing. When we're in him, he ain't going to lead us wrong. Even when we think we might be doing something wrong. If it says, like it says that he said, I know that thou didst in the integrity of thy heart. So he wouldn't have did this if he knew better. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet. So Abraham is now being identified as a prophet. So that's a point that you may want to highlight, because it's like, okay, now we'll get a definition of what a prophet is. This is somebody that communes directly with God. We see Abraham having conversations with God, and we see his humility in that exchange. But just to even be able to have a conversation with God, that shows the prophet, what a prophet should be. Therefore restore this man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if thou restorest her not, know thou that thou shalt surely die, and all that are thine. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called to his servants, and told all these things to their ears, and the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and said unto him, what hast thou done unto us, and what have I offended thee? And thou hast brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin, and thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not be done. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what sawest thou that thou hast done this thing? And Abraham said, because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and that they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister, she is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, this is thy kindness. Okay. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, this is thine kindness which thou showed unto me. At every place whither we shall come, say of me, he is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and manservants and women servants, and gave them unto Abraham, and restored him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, behold, my hand is before thee. Dwell where it pleaseth thee. And said unto Sarah, he said, behold, I have given thy brothers 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to thee a covering of the eyes unto all that are with thee, and with all other. Thus she was reproved. So Abram prayed unto God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maidservants, and they bare children. For the Lord had fast closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abram's wife. Okay, so we got to the end of chapter 20, and this is showing the interaction with people and how Abimelech was like, okay, listen, I'm down with God. You know, Abraham was like, I ain't mean to try to choke you up like that, but we in this crazy world. You got Sodom and Gomorrah's around here. I ain't even know if you was on that type of godly time. So now that he recognizes him as a man of God, God has come to him and told him he is a prophet. He has changed his direction and his dealings with him, and he basically was like, yo, you need someplace to stay? I got land. He said, what he said, he said, behold, my land is before thee, dwell where it pleaseth thee. So he recognizes, Abimelech is now in a place where he recognizes this is a godly man, and in doing so, all that he can, he like, hey, God done gave me this land, and you look like you need some place to stay, so I got you. We brothers in Christ, and obviously you got some real deal holy power on you, because God came to me in this dream, and I'm glad I ain't hit that. She fine, but it ain't worth the headache. It is not worth it. So that's where we're at. We're ending at chapter 21, and we're ending through chapter 20, so we'll pick back up on chapter 21 on the next session. But I hope you guys are enjoying this. We kicking back, we studying the Bible. We're not worried about no religion, we're not worried about no tradition. We're just getting this word, and when you get this word and you read it and you hear it aloud, I make the commentary throughout, because for me, when I'm reading it, it's like a movie playing in my head, and I see these things because I have a love of literature that makes this easy for me to digest and understand. So I hope that you guys are enjoying this journey with me. We are 2 sessions down, 1 million more to go, especially if we're reading in 10 chapters at a time. But we are ending here. Feel free to share this with anyone who you think may be blessed by it, and I look forward to our next session.